Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about American politics, and we're going to talk about Pete Buttigieg. Remember him? All right, so he's back. I saw him on Channel 5 News, and now I'm aware of Channel 5 News because of Neil Brennan. So Channel 5 News is Andrew Callahan, and he is modern journalism, right? So he's like not Gen Z. He's, you know what, I would say he's millennial, right? So he's like a millennial news reporter, and he's very irreverent and and not beholden to any large corporations. He's kind of, people like him, right? And I get it, right? I get that, like, it's not even that people like it. Like, actually, Neil Brennan was like, you're not anybody special, right? The reason you matter is because the mainstream sucks so bad. Like, they, and guys like Andrew Callahan, like, it's not that he's blowing up the world with something fresh or new. It's that he's just not sucking as bad as like CNN. It's like CNN, MSNBC. I'd throw in Fox. Like, the mainstream stuff is just like, yeah, I kind of laugh at people who could turn it on and watch it, right? Like, I'm just like, I don't know what you're doing over there, right? And so Andrew Callahan is an alternative, right? So he had Pete Buttigieg on, and they had this great this really fascinating conversation about something I wanted to cover. And then I was like, wait, we got to back up. We got to just talk about Pete Buttigieg by himself. Like, just let's talk about Pete Buttigieg, right? So 2016, he came out. 2016, he arrives on the scene and he runs for president, right? And he really appeared on the board briefly, okay? Now, the reality is, like, man, the Democrats are in so much trouble right now. One of the things is, like, people are really upset because they felt that, like, when Biden was done, everybody was like, you guys gaslit the whole country for 4 years. And people were furious, right? And I get it. I'm right there. Like, I'm like, you pretended he was an actual real president, like, and he clearly wasn't. So what was? And you're like, was it an alien? Was it an AI? Was it a witch? Like, who was running the country? Because it sure as heck wasn't Biden, right? And people are like, still to this day, the Dems are just getting roasted by the Republicans because people just really dislike the Dems. But now Pete Buttigieg is back, right? And it brings up the subject again, like, what happened to Pete Buttigieg? He got swept off the board in 2016 with Bernie Sanders and a whole bunch of other guys because the Democrats were like, hey, Hillary's the thing. Like, that's it. Hillary's the thing. Like, nobody gets to run. Like, and there really wasn't. The Dems really swept the board and did not allow a real discussion on who the Democrats wanted to run. Because, like, I think it's pretty clear now. The Dems really wanted to run Bernie Sanders. And that's, it would have been like, it definitely would. It would have. I think they would have a much better idea. They would have had a much better chance than Hillary. Absolutely, no one wanted Hillary except super deep in the weed feminist Democrats, like, not the majority of the party. And so that's where we landed, right? Then in 2020, they were like, Biden's the guy, and they just did it again. They just, like, pushed aside all the real candidates. But there was a moment where Pete Buttigieg really mattered, right? And so I just saw him on Andrew Callahan. He's still alive. He still matters. He's still smart, and he's still capable. That's interesting, right? So what I think is interesting is, let's have the Pete Buttigieg conversation now. So what's wild is, in 2016, imagine how different our world was. They were running Pete Buttigieg as, hey, ready to have the first LGBTQ president? And everybody was like, okay, it's 2016. We can have this conversation, right? And the Democrats were like, yes. And the Republicans were like, yeah. And so here's the thing. What I think is interesting now is, Pete Buttigieg is still around, right? And I think they're positioning him to run in 2028. And frankly, I think he's a perfectly valid option for the Democrats. He's very smart. He's very capable. He understand, like, he's smart enough to understand what current voters actually hate. He's also smart enough to fix his mistakes from the past, right? He was very plastic before, very, like, political answers. And I see him making the moves to be very genuine and transparent, right? But one of the things I think is really fascinating, and I'm not saying this, I'm actually asking it, all right? Here's what I think that's what's happening with Pete Buttigieg right now. Pete Buttigieg has switched, and I think if he runs and the Democrats run him, what they're going to say is, hey, check out Pete Buttigieg, smart, capable dude. And they are not going to mention that he will be the first LGBTQ president, right? Like they're not even going to mention it. They're not even going to mention it, right? And the reason why is when in 2016, that was like a booster rocket, right? Like in the Dem space, you know, that you know, you could get some traction with that, right? Now it's a different world, right? And why? Is it because people aren't down with LGBTQ? No, I don't think we're there yet, right? Like, in fact, I'm hoping we don't get there. Like, LGBTQ people deserve to keep the rights they've earned, okay? I think where the conversation has shifted, and again, I'm not saying this is correct. I'm actually asking. Here's what I think has happened. I think a lot of people look at the LGBTQ community now and we're like, you guys jumped the line, right? Like, Obama was the first black president. And now people are like, okay, we've broken the barrier, right? And we can have all these minority presidents, right? But and then they were like, well, Pete Buttigieg is going to be first LGBT. And people are like, whoa. You know, like, you're going to, wait, LGBTQ is like 3% of America, maybe 10, like wherever you're going to, but like women have never had it, you know? And so people are like, well, wait. Why would LGBTQ jump in front of women, Asian Americans, Latino Americans, Native Americans, right? And so basically, I think the conversation has switched to, hey, you know, LGBTQ needed help. The Democrats helped them, right? But there's a lot of other minorities in the line, right? And maybe the LGBTQ need to go to the back of the line until some of these other minorities get something, because LGBTQ got a lot, right? The Democrats really helped them, and they needed that help. The things they got were real, honest, you know, rights that they had every right to have, right? But I think a lot of people are like, okay, you got yours, right? Like, some of these other minorities need something, right? Like, you don't get to double dip or triple dip before you know, while there's still major minority groups that are completely empty-handed still, right? And so I think that's where we are with Pete Buttigieg. And I will say, I was extremely impressed with him. He seems completely aware of everything I just said, right? And he's like, I don't need it. I can do this without that, right? Like, he does, like, I don't need to bring out my, you know, my LGBTQ black badge. I'm smart, I'm capable, you know, I'm camera ready. Let's do this, right? And I think he's right. I actually very interested in him. I think he's a smart guy. I don't think he's evil, right? Like, you're like, not evil. Yeah, that's like a big deal now, right? Like, you're like, yeah, it should be a big deal that you're like not evil in American politics, but it's a big deal. Like, you know, it's like Mother Gothel's like running. It's like, it's a thing, right? So I'm actually excited to see Pete Buttigieg back. You know, it'd be very interesting. Yeah, and I was just glad to see him around, kicking, and still very viable as a political candidate. All right, so I asked some questions in there. I'd love to get your take. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion, nothing more, nothing less, and some questions. The important part is when I get to your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.